Step one, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step two, get some good, some food in you. Step three, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step four, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Crypto, where we turn your early hours in the morning into your edge and financial freedom. Today, I've got a few headlines that are going to be touching on some tariffs. You know, we've seen things spicing up just a little bit between us and China, and you've also seen some countries that are ready to negotiate. So I got a headline that kind of touches on both sides of those. So let's dive on in and get you prepped for some success today. I've got that stock heat map pulled up. Like always, we're seeing a little bit of some green in the pre-markets this morning. Was doing quite a bit better earlier, kind of slowed up on some of that buying pressure now though. We've got Apple that closed at 3.67% to the downside, looking up 1.29% in the pre-market right now. Nvidia closed 3.53% to the upside, looking up 2.18 in the pre-market right now. Got Berkshire Hathaway down at 0.64, looking up 2.48 in the pre-market. Got Amazon sitting up at 2.49, looking up a 1.81 in the pre-market so far. We've got Eli Lilly up down 1.96, but up 2% in the pre-market. ExxonMobil closed to the downside 1.34, looking up 1.28 in the pre-market this morning. Got Tesla down 2.56 from its close, looking up 1.28 so far in that pre-market. Got P&G down a whopping 2.15%, looking a little bit to the upside this morning, up 0.93. Got Microsoft down 0.5, so sitting in that neutral range. Also sitting in that neutral range for the pre-market this morning, up 0.03%. Got Google sitting up 1.02, up 1.29 in the pre-market so far. And we've got Meta sitting up 2.28, just outside of that neutral range for the morning, up 0.53. Let's hop over to the crypto side of things. We are seeing a little bit of some green on that daily. Hourly's looking to do a little bit of some battle here. Pretty much green across the board in that top 25. We've got Bitcoin up 2.4. We've got Ethereum up 4.2. We've got XRP up 5.3. BNB up 2.3, Solana up 7.1, Doge up 7.9, we've got Tron up 4%, Cardano's up 5.6, we've got Leo maintaining that neutral on things, up 0.9, we've got TON up 4.1, we've got Chainlink up 7%, Stellar Lumens up 4.3, we've got Avalanche up 8.1, SWI up 10.2%, HBAR up a whopping 13.9%. We've got Shiba Inu up 2.1, Mantra up 3%, and Bitcoin Cash making a move to the upside on that position from 21, taking that spot of Polkadot up 7.4%. I see a lot of people having some fun in the chat this morning. I will say good morning to y'all in just a second. We are down another point on our fear and greed meter on the stock side of things. You know, we did see a little bit of some downside on your big True 7. We did see a little bit of breath breathed in to the markets closer to that end of day, and it's looking like we're seeing a little upside in that pre-market this morning, so we might make a little bit of a move up. Still sitting in the extreme fear for the week, But I do think we make a little bit of a move back towards 10 before we really get some of that bad data on Friday. We'll dive on into that one in a second. We've got that crypto side of things back in extreme fear, just like yesterday. Up 1 point, but didn't quite make it out of that extreme fear point. Let's hop over to that liquidation heat map. Let's give that a refresh because I've had that open since like 4:30 this morning. So there we go. We can see that hot spot still sitting to the upside at about $81,000 and ranging all the way to about 81,300. Quite a hot spot to the top side, which looking like about $60 million on that daily. We do see that 3-day looking quite similar with a lot of liquidity to the upside. We do have that right around a high resistance zone at about 84,200 there, ranging all the way down to 83,400. So about a $1,000 price swing there where we can grab some topside liquidity. We do have another brief hotspot sitting right at about 81,300, and we've got a nice hotspot to the bottom side at a liquidity zone that I've been talking about for quite a while. Starts at that 74,100. We do have a nice little hotspot on that 2-week, which I always like to take a look at to see where we might be heading for the long term, and it looks like we've cleared out a lot of this liquidity. We do have that brief little hotspot that's showing up at $88,000. We did still leave some of that open on that higher term time frame. That's that 3-month I keep pulling up for you so you can really see where that bottom side liquidity resides. It looks like $72,000 is going to be that nice hotspot to the bottom side, and we've still got that other liquidity zone to the bottom side starting at 64,300 and ranging all the way down to about 62,500 there. We'll kind of have to see if we sweep this liquidity and then continue to the downside to grab the rest of that bottom side liquidity. Looks like a lot of people have started closing out some of these longs, so we've lost out on some of that liquidity that was residing to the bottom side. Let's hop over to the economic calendar, get that all pulled up. We're not really seeing any heavy data coming out of the US today. We do see a few 3-year auctions. We do have the beginning of our crude oil stock information coming out at 4:30. We also have Fed daily speaking at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that's about it coming out of the US today. We do have some heavy data coming out the rest of this week, though. To start off the morning tomorrow, we will be getting our crude oil stock information, like always. And then diving on in later in the day, we will get our FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock. We should expect some volatility off of the verbiage that we get from these FOMC minutes. There is a little bit of a shift considering all of these tariffs. We will be trying to see how the Federal Reserve wants to handle monetary policy going forward. I don't think he really gives any hint about whether he's going to cut or not. It will really just have to pay attention to what kind of verbiage he uses, and I think you get a big market move off of his speech. Let's dive into that Thursday data because that's another hard-hitting day. We will be getting core inflation rate month over month and year over year, looking like a small decrease on that year over year on the core side of things, looking like a small increase on the month over month though. So kind of negating each other on that. We do see inflation rate month over month taking a heading in the right direction from 0.2% to 0.1%. So a nice little slowdown there. Also, that year over year looking to be a nice decrease from 2.8 to 2.6%. We'll kind of have to see if all of this plays out quite nicely there. We also have those initial jobless claims looking to head in the wrong direction though. So inflation looking like it might be cooling down just a little bit on this next print, and jobs numbers increasing. We also have some data coming out Friday with some PPI data. That will be our core PPI month over month, looking to head from negative 0.1 to 0.3%, and the year over year heading in the wrong direction from 3.4 to 3.6. Not really what you want to see. Also, looking like some inflation pressures increasing on the producer side. Not too unexpected considering the tariffs. We do have a PPI month over month and year over year, which is looking to also head in the wrong direction month over month from 0% to 0.2, and PPI year over year looking from 3.2 to 3.3. So both core and non-core PPI heading in the wrong direction. Let's hop over to the chats. See the chats moving quite a bit this morning. We've got Jeffrey Stone Cipher first in the chat. Good morning to you, sir. We got JR in here, always dropping those crypto moves in our Discord. If you're not on the Discord, should definitely check it out. We've got that link in the description there. We've got Jesse Gluck in here. We got Crypto Coin Mindset. Good morning to you, sir. If you haven't heard, me, Crypto Coin Mindset, and Crypto Bedell will be coming out with a new venture every single Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. First one is going to be next week. It is HODL the Line. We will be hitting all of those hard-hitting subjects that sometimes get skipped over, and we'll also be having some fun there. So bringing the alpha and keeping things a little bit lighthearted. We've got Crypto Bedell in the chats as well. Good morning to you, sir. I see Jay Violet in here. She says, I'm having ribs for dinner. Well, yep, it is evening time for you, so you enjoy those ribs. We got Donato Cabrera in here. Good morning. Let's scroll on down. We got Rashad in the chat. Good morning to you, sir. We got Joel Vasquez in here as well. Alexandra G, good morning to you, Mod Queen. Hope you're having a great morning so far. Crypto Billy's in the chat as well. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're having a great day so far. Let's see. I see K Diggity in here as well. Good morning to you, sir. And Mark Dutch in the chat. Good morning. All right. We will hop into this Bitcoin chart. I've got that 4-hour pulled up. Looks like we're seeing a little bit of some curvature back to the downside here. Let me get my demonstration tool pulled up and zoom in on this MACD here. You can kind of see we're getting some sideways movement as we've broken above our indicator line, showing that this move might be played out here once we topped out at the top side of our old CME gap. We kind of also closed out some of that CME gap from the weekend as well. Let's take a look at this money flow here on the prime oscillator, and as you can see, it's coming back out, looking at some more selling pressure as we've failed to maintain the midline of this old CME gap here. You also see that prime oscillator getting some curvature back to the downside as it's sitting in the green, and your volume has started to increase on some light selling pressure. We'll kind of have to see if we can maintain the bottom side of our old CME gap, which is starting at 77,300. That's a strong bouncing point to kind of watch for. Definitely something to hold up if you are not able to hold up. I talked about that 71,800 yesterday. That's kind of that bottom range of the liquidity zone before you really see that big gap and the rest of that liquidity that's sitting at the platinum pocket down here. Definitely a range I would be eager to buy at, but not eager to see right away. We do have all of that top side liquidity still residing at 90,000. I do think on the macro, we do make that sweep back to the upside to grab that liquidity before we really continue to the downside. Let's take a look at that 1 hour, see what the day is bringing our way here. As you can kind of see, we're getting that MACD cross back to the downside, but doing so in quite a sideways move here. Definitely looking like you could potentially see that little bit of some bouncing here at that 77,200 to about $78,000 there. That's where we see those strong equal candle bodies here in our CME gap. Gives you a nice little range to the bottom side of that CME gap, looking like our money flow is kind of making a move towards that selling pressure all over again. But if it is able to make a higher low than this one down here, you might see that switch of momentum. Definitely have some very, very strong resistance to the top side of us at about 81,300, which is also where that top side liquidity was residing on that daily chart. Also seeing a bit of some slow up on this buying volume here. So looking to see if we can bring that money flow back in on the bottom side of our CME gap there. We also have the 15-minute and the morning looking like you've got that last ditch effort to make a pushback up above our 50% line on this old CME gap. Watching as our money flow comes back in here, seeing that prime oscillator switch back to green as we're getting a pushback up and seeing our selling volume slow up here quite a bit. Let me get that moved over so you couldn't see that. I was drawn behind my head. We got that volume slowing up quite a bit on that selling volume as that money flow starts coming back in, and our prime oscillator got that switch back to the green, waiting for that MACD to cross our indicator line as we've started printing lighter red candles and making higher lows on the candles on our histogram here. Definitely have a bit of some resistance at that top side of the CME gap. I do think we cool off just a little bit more to wait for some money flow to come back in. Might see a little bit of some resistance at our equal highs from before and after our peak there. Let me get that drawn out as a horizontal ray here where we see those very equal highs. Got about that 80,300. Let me get that made a little bit thinner so we see a short-term rejection zone drawn out. That's where we see those very nice highs from the way down. You also see the Wiccan action from before back here. We'll kind of have to see if we reject off of, if we push to the upside first, which it looks like we're going to do for the morning, and get past the 50% line on that old CME gap. All right, I did have a few news articles pulled up here, very brief ones. So if anyone has some art requests for the morning, go ahead and drop those in the chat for me. I've got plenty of time. We will definitely be taking a look at gold because one of these news articles touches on gold. I see Arsan246 in the chat. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're having a great morning so far. I'll order a McTariff tonight. The new nothing burger at McDonald's, says Mark Dutch. Oh boy, that's a good one there. I think a lot of the tariff news has been quite overplayed. I think it's very, very net neutral for a lot of the economy. You've already seen a lot of countries willing to negotiate, which means that for the short term, we will be seeing these tariffs, but for the long term, you're seeing a lot of countries willing to negotiate. You do see a few outliers like China here. Let's zoom this on in. Let me get that zoomed in. All right, we've got gold. USD. Gold reclaims $3,000 as tariff shootout intensifies. China vows to fight to the end. Gold regains $3,000. Gold shot up nearly 1% on Tuesday as traders took a defensive stance and rushed to snap up the yellow metal. The initiative buoyed the price from Monday's low of $2,956 to a Tuesday session high of $3,005 per ounce. What's behind that? Heightened gold chances of global trade wars. The tariff shootout between the U.S. and China entered a new stage when Trump on Monday said he will impose an additional 50% tariffs on China as soon as Wednesday if it didn't pare back its retaliatory 34% tariff introduced last Friday. Trump's tariffs have roiled the markets, and as we saw on the beginning of the week, we saw several countries having to pause their stock market as they saw a very heavy bleed off. We do see the response from Beijing didn't take long to arrive. This morning, Chinese Commerce Ministry said it would escalate its retaliation measures if Trump goes ahead with an extra 50% duties on Chinese imports. If that takes effect, some goods will be charged an extra 120% at the U.S. border. If the U.S. proceeds with implementing these escalated tariff measures, China will resolutely take countermeasures to safeguard its own rights and interests, a spokesperson said on Tuesday. If the U.S. insists on going its own way, China will fight to the end. Prior to today's tariff fuel jump, gold was shoved to a 4-week low as the same tariff jitters had shown some signs of cooling, but not anymore. The new developments threaten to rewrite the rules for global trade and, what's scarier, end globalization as we know it. I don't think that's such a big worry there, the end of globalization. We will definitely see new partnerships be made. I do think it's very good for America to kind of make a bit of a split from China. You know, we are heavily reliant on China for goods, and we should kind of spread that out, because you saw what happened during COVID when China shut down, wasn't shipping a whole lot of goods. You saw very little goods being making it to American shelves. That kind of showed the weakness that you see if one country is not shipping your goods. That's not a position you want to be in. So definitely going to see how this all plays out on the long term. You do see Japan Finance Minister vows to take all necessary measures to deal with U.S. tariff. Japan's finance minister has promised to take all necessary measures to respond to the impact of higher tariffs imposed by President Trump, including funding aid for Japanese countries affected by the U.S. move. The Finance Ministry and Financial Services Agency will conduct necessary analysis at their task force and cooperate with relevant ministries to ensure that we are fully prepared to respond to the U.S. tariff measures. Finance Minister Katsuya Kato said at a news conference on Tuesday. As Japan seeks an exemption from the U.S. tariffs, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba held a call with President Trump on Monday. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he will lead trade negotiations with Japan. Japan remains among America's closest allies, and I look forward to our upcoming productive engagement regarding tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers, and currency issues, and government subsidies, Bessent said in a post on X. The Japanese minister said that he is still not aware who will be Bessent's counterpart. And this is kind of both a positive and a negative for the Japanese economy. If Japan decides that they want to hold up some of these businesses by printing dollars and giving them to these companies to kind of negate some of the negatives while they negotiate with America, kind of increases those inflationary pressures for Japan. We'll kind of have to see if that weakens those sorry, those carry trade pressures as we've seen a bit of a downside on the US dollar against the Japanese yen. I was going to take a look at gold here. I see ADA requested on the list. Jesse Gulek says, BC, if I'm in the chat, you can always look at ADA, and Billy would also loves to look at ADA. All right, I will definitely remember that one. You normally request ADA, and I know Crypto Billy always loves to take a look at ADA. He's also got quite a bit built on top of ADA. So not only does he like the project, he uses ADA for what it's supposed to be used for. Let's see any other art requests in the chat. Not seeing any so far, so I'll kind of wait for those to come on in this morning. I was taking a look at gold. Let's get this zoomed in. This is a weekly view, kind of macro looks that I was taking a look at for the morning. You do see us getting a nice little bounce to the upside after our nice cool down of these charts. You definitely could see a little bit more cooling off on the charts here, as we're getting a bit of some curvature on this MACD, but if we do see some money flow coming back in, as we're starting to see on some of the volume here, switching from selling volume to some buying volume here, could definitely make that move back to the upside. You do see us with this 236 on a fib extension right above us. That's where we got that nice little rejection, and I talked about $2,999 being a point where I would like to see us hold. When we got back to the top side of that, looking like we're trying to hold that now. Did see a little bit of some wicking action to the bottom, but looking like a nice bounce zone for the morning. Let's zoom that on in to that 15-minute, see what we're really looking at there. Getting a bit of some curvature back to the upside on our MACD as we're waiting across that indicator line, printing lighter red candles on our histogram here. Got that prime oscillator moving up back to the top side here, sitting in the light red as our money flow is starting to increase, but our volume is looking like some light selling volume here. Going to have to see if we can get that switch of momentum as we start approaching that 236 and $3,018. That's going to be our first real point to see some battle at. We got some nice bouncing action to the top side when we came back to it. So looking for that 236 on our fib extension to be held here. As we get to the upside, I was taking a look at silver as well. Silver is a bit battered down as well. You know, those definitely move in tandem there. We do have us sitting at a nice point for silver, looking to maintain this 382 on our fib retracement. Let me zoom that on out to a higher term time frame and that 4 hour, so you can kind of see where that was pulled from. We do have this being from the lows all the way back here in February of last year. So a nice range that we've been maintaining on silver. Did not make that drop all the way down to our golden pocket. Got that wicking action to the downside extremely hard back at the beginning of last week when we saw the markets take that dip, and then we moved right back up to our 382 and $30. Looking to maintain these prices for silver as we do have our MACD crossing to the upside of our indicator line with some strength, and seeing that money flow kind of slowing up on that selling pressure as the volume decreases as well. So a nice area to kind of watch for this reversal of trend. Let's zoom this on in to that hour, kind of see what the day is bringing our way there. As you can see, that money flow has started to head back up to the upside here, looking for that slow up on selling pressure as that volume has really swapped from selling volume to some buying volume with some intensity. You do have a bit of a resistance area to the top side though, going to be that $30.65. That's going to be a key battle area for silver. As we saw all of the selling pressure in this range, you do have a bit of some selling pressure at about $30.40 as well. Everything above that is going to be extremely hard selling pressure. So watch for this block to kind of be a rejection zone from $30.40 up to $30.65 there. I did take a look at the S&P this morning as well. You do see some massive downside on the S&P. Let's zoom that on out to the daily here. You can kind of see we've got a massive CME gap here. Let me get that drawn out for you. Sitting from about an area I had talked about wanting to see us hold as support and all the way above that 382. Let me get that colored out as blue. I like to make those CME gaps blue, so let's get that locked as well so we're not moving it around. You do see that $395 being that top side of the CME gap, and the bottom side being that $5,291. It does look like we're going to try to make a little bit of a play up towards that. We did push back up above our 50% Fibonacci on the retracement here, looking to kind of hold this zone. You do see our first oversold signals starting to flash on the S&P as the True 7 has started clipping here. Your money flow is still in the red though. But if you zoom this on in to our shorter term time frames, you can kind of start to see we do see a light breath of buying pressure coming back in, looking like we are kind of faltering at the lows before we really dropped down towards that 50% line, created a CME gap here as well when we opened up at the beginning of the week, but looking like we already closed that out here, trying to maintain that 50% Fibonacci. As we're getting that curvature on the prime oscillator, your volume is increasing as some selling volume, but your money flow is looking quite green here, waiting for that MACD to cross our indicator line here to the upside as we're printing our first green candle on the histogram. Kind of seeing if we can get back up towards our 382 and $5,049 there. That'd be that first real area where we're going to see some battles before we get up to our CME gap. Kind of going to see if that plays out to the upside as well for the morning. Let's see. We did have ADA requested. I didn't see any other alt requests. I see All Set in the chat saying good morning BC and fam. Good morning to you, All Set. I see Wayne C in the chats as well. Good morning to you. And I see Al Jr. in here as well. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're having a great day. I see ADA requested, so that's about it. Any other alt requests? Anything. Doesn't have to be an alt request. Could totally just be any asset you would like me to take a look at. I don't mind looking at TradFi. I definitely do a lot on TradFi as well. We did see the Dixie also getting kind of battered down here. We did see it at a key area yesterday that it's trying to hold up right now. You do see price action sitting right at that key area I was looking at. That's that 103.18, and it looks like we might be breaking to the downside here, seeing a lot of downside pressures. I see ETH and Tesla requested. That's a request I haven't seen in quite a while. Can definitely take a look at that. I've got that actually pulled up on my other tab there, So can definitely take a look at that. We got that MACD line looking to cross it back to the downside here on the dollar, as we're seeing continued selling pressure on the Dixie. You do have a bit of a divergence here that is looking like it's going to be completely ignored, as there's plenty of selling pressure on the dollar. It might be the best place to put your money in comparison to some other currencies right now, besides about the euro. The euro has been pretty resilient, making some upsides against the dollar, but definitely a lot of traders looking to hold off on having their money in any currencies right now, looking for more long-term plays. That's why you saw some of the bonds getting bought up. You did see a bit of a tick to the upside on our 10-year yield yesterday, as it looks like China might be dumping some bonds. Let's zoom this on in to the hourly, see what the day is bringing the way for the Dixie. And as you can see here, we rejected quite nicely off of that 50% line on our fib retracement, and it looks like we just made a lower high. So looking to try to see if we break back below this low here at 102.74. If we do, it looks like the downside for the dollar will be continuing. I did talk about wanting to kind of see if we get to 116 and maintain that price point. You have that golden pocket, which is sitting right above us right above that at 162 cents. All right, I see NVIDIA requested as well. I can definitely take a look at that one. We got NVIDIA. All right, let's hop into that first art request. We had ADA on there. Actually, I got Ethereum already pulled up in my my tab. So let's take a look at that one. That was an alt request as well. Let's zoom this on out to the 4 hour. Scroll it on down and then drop it down. You can kind of see I had talked about wanting to try to hold up that $1,537. Looks like we got a nice bounce once we got to the top side of it and saw a little bit of some selling pressure coming back down to it. Looking like we might lose that though, as we're seeing some red candles on the histogram. Let's zoom that on out to the daily though. Get that better view. On the macro, as you can kind of see here, we're not seeing any oversold signals. We did see that money flow continuing to be in the red, looking to increase. Let me get that demonstration tool pulled up. Get it moved over just a bit so you can see that money flow still making its way out on the daily. Selling volume starting to decrease though, so getting to a point where you could potentially see a reversal of trend. I do think since we saw that heavy wicking action to the downside of that key level I had talked about, which was the lows, but I think it was the highs back in, nope, it was the lows back in September and November of 2023 before we really got that strong move to the upside. So looking to potentially come all the way back down to 1,369, which is the highs of an area right before that. These are some key levels on Ethereum that are decent buying levels if you have long-term conviction. I say that with a question mark on the voice because I don't have conviction in Ethereum, but it's number 2 in the crypto market. So if you do have that conviction in the number 2 spot, definitely not a bad area to buy at if you think it's going to get back up to the highs. Let's zoom that on in to the hourly, see what the day is bringing our way here. And you do see that heavy curvature back on the prime oscillator and MACD. Let me get that zoomed in just a little bit so you can see that. I'm getting that curvature back to the downside here as we're printing lighter green candles on the histogram, but does look like if we see this money flow switch from selling pressure to some buying pressure and go in tandem with this buying volume here and that prime oscillator getting that curve back to the upside, you could potentially see that upside move. For the day. You do have a bit of a resistance area to the top side at about $1,635. Let me get that horizontal ray drawn out. It will be a short-term resistance area that we'd look at breaking. Let me get that zone deleted since we did drop to the bottom of it. We do have this first resistance area I would look at potentially getting above, looking like we're trying to make this another higher low here. That's where I'd potentially look at that rejection as we are getting that curvature back to the upside on the MACD and the prime oscillator as well. But you've got plenty of selling pressure here with your money flow and that higher term time frame as well. Let's look at the 15-minute and see what the morning is bringing our way. Looking like a little more upside here, printing some green candles on our histogram. Got your money flow switching back to the green here. Your selling volume looking to maintain very light selling volume here as our prime oscillators getting that curvature back to the upside as well. You have plenty of resistance above us at about $1,600. That's a bit of a range where we might see some selling pressure coming back in. Let me get that to the rectangle. There we go. Got this range to the top side of us. That's looking like a bit of a sell wall. Let me click. There we go. Got that as a sell wall there. That's going to be a strong battle point for Ethereum to really get above. Would really need to turn that into some support. Yep, Jesse F ETH. I say it for different reasons than OC guy does. He doesn't like ETH because of an ETH trade, because ETH is terrible at trying to trade. You know, I like ETH as a buy and hold. You buy at the bottom, you sell at the top, and then you just leave it alone. But I don't like ETH because of it's kind of the antithesis of the crypto space. You know, it's got that centralized entity in charge of it, and they like to head in the direction, and they're a little bit of a dubious company there. So they got a lot in the background that they can potentially do. I also don't like some of the things they've done in their past. But if you need more on that, I believe me and Crypto Coin Mindset did a whole episode on that. So I'm not sure what the link to that is, but go ahead, check his channel out. We do a lot of talking about Ethereum there and some of those negatives of the Ethereum Foundation. I'm mad at ETH, but I'm not leaving her, says K Diggity. Hey, you know, it's number 2 in the crypto space, and it's performed nicely at the beginning of the bull run. It is a bit battered down, just like the rest of your alt space. But if you have that long-term conviction, there's a lot built on top of Ethereum. I do think that kind of buoys those price points, especially since there is going to be a bit of a floor, since a lot of projects still use Ethereum because they're built on Ethereum. So if you buy Link, technically you are using Ethereum. Jesse Gulak, dropping that link in the chat for me. Thank you, Jesse. And Crypto Coin Mindset saying BC facts 100% about ETH. Yep. I mean, it's number 2 though. So you know, there's never a wrong choice betting on the number 2 in the space. So sometimes that number 2 can perform, and sometimes that number 2 gets battered down. So let's take a look at ADA. Zoom this on out to that 4-hour. And looking like we're seeing a little bit of some curvature back to the downside on that price action. Seeing that on the prime oscillator as well. But the prime oscillator is sitting quite green here, waiting to see if this volume continues to switch from some light selling volume into some buying volume here. You do see that true 7 making its way back to the upside as our MACD has crossed to the top side of our indicator line, printing our first green candles here on our histogram as well. You do have a bit of a resistance area, support area I would look for at 57 cents. We did get that nice strong bounce off of 56 cents yesterday, and that moved to the upside. So nice little bouncing zone. From the wick of that candle there, we did see this hourly looking like it's got more room to run to the upside. Let me zoom that on in so you can see here we're starting to print dark green candles all over on the histogram as our MACD line has maintained to the top side of our indicator line, getting that curvature back to the upside on our indicator line as well. You know, I did talk about some ranging price action going into this week, and it looks like that's what we might be doing here. Got a nice green volume here as our prime oscillator, getting that curve back to the upside, sitting in the red here as a true 7 is looking to cool off. So we've got a bit of a resistance zone directly to the top side of us. Short-term resistance zone, got that line drawn out thin, so you know that's going to be a 60 cents, but 60.4. So that 64 zone is going to be a bit of a resistance zone for Ethereum. Or for ADA, if you can get back to the top side of it, you do have very strong resistance at 62 cents. That's that area I talked about yesterday. Looks like that's the midline of this sideways ranging action I was predicting for this week. We do have some downside pressure heading our way on Friday, because we do have that mixed data coming out Wednesday and Thursday. Let's zoom this on in to the 15-minute, see what the morning might be bringing our way here. You do see our prime oscillator looking like it could be getting to that overheated spot. Watching for that volume to switch from some selling volume to some buying volume here in the short term. Seeing those candles on our histogram kind of slow up though. Got your MACD line to the top side of our indicator line and approaching that 0 line. So if we can see some money flow come in here on that 15-minute, I would look for that pushback up towards 60 cents. You do have a bit of an area to the downside where you could potentially cool off just a bit and then see that bouncing action from, this is going to be that other short-term bouncing zone. I'd look for 58 cents where we see those very equal candle bodies there. So continued ups, a little bit of some continued upside for the morning before we really cool off, probably bounce around that 58 cent and then make our way back up to 60 cents there. I see Crypto Pollo in the chat. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're having a great morning so far. Gonna drop that Bitcoin and the chicken in the chat for you because we got the Bitcoin chicken in the house. All right, we had Tesla and Nvidia requested. Got some time for those as well. We'll see if we have time for one more request. All right, let's zoom this on out to a higher term time frame. That 15-minute looking quite choppy there. Let's get this resistance line drawn out a little bit thicker. That 2 line is a little bit thin. All right, let's clean up. We got that old CME gap, which is no longer in play. We do have us sitting above the platinum pocket here. You just see that nice strong bouncing action to the upside. Once we got back down to it, we do see us looking like we're seeing our first reversal signal starting to flash on Tesla here. You do see this reversal signal here on the prime oscillator. Not seeing any oversold signals, but you do see our money flow finally getting that nice slow up here. Might make a last little push down for the morning before we really see that continuation to the upside though. Trying to maintain some of this range. Pre-market opening up quite above our close here. You do see this top side, the bottom side of our CME gap from back here. You can see coming into play. This is a bit of a resistance zone, and there's a CME gap inside our old CME gap. I see Steve Hickey in the chat saying good morning. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're having a great morning so far. Getting yourself some caffeine and prepared for the day. You do see our MACD line sitting quite below our indicator line, and we're still printing some red candles here on the histogram. So we've got a little bit of some cooling off to do here before we really see that topside action. 58 cents on ADA is a nice DCA level, just spot. I got a little nibble at 58 cents, not financial advice. That's definitely a great buying point for you there on ADA. Crypto Pollo, I was looking at lower. I don't think I'm going to DCA on ADA until we get to the bear market, honestly. It might see a little bit of some bounce to the top, but I got some other things I've been doing with my money. You know, I talked about some places to put my money and potentially for people to put their money in on the TradFi side of things, as we did see some of these markets get battered down. And that was some energy sector plays and some healthcare sector plays. So I've been dribbling my money in there for the next couple of years as we kind of see a little bit of a downtrend on some of the crypto side of things. I've been doing my DCA on Bitcoin. That's about it for now. I will wait till we get to some bear market before I will be buying any altcoins at all. That's just my frame of mind. I'm a bit of a Bitcoin maxi though, so my framework on buying altcoins is very, very different. I don't like to buy them, and I only buy them in the bears, and I only buy at I only buy those Dino coins, honestly. I bought a little XRP, sold off all my XRP, bought a little ADA, sold off all my ADA, bought one new project, and that was Injective. That was the only real new project I bought this cycle. Everything else was all Dino coins because you know, I like things with utility. Let's zoom Tesla in to the hourly and see what the day might be bringing our way here. Watching for that MACD line to cross our indicator line to the top side, looking like we made a higher low on our histogram here, printing some lighter red candles as we start approaching this CME gap here. This hasn't been closed either. Let me get that actually it has been closed with that wick to the top side of our old CME gap. So let me get it drawn out though, because you might see some price action playing off of this zone here. You are sitting within that. That's not a selling pressure area. That's going to be a CME gap. Let me get that drawn out a little bit better there. There we go. Blue for CME gap, and it has been closed. So let's make that black so you know it's closed there. All right, we're sitting within that CME gap. We've got some topside pressure at selling pressure right above where the pre-market is going to open at. So that's going to be $240, where we see a lot of selling pressure coming in for Tesla. You do see some potential for some upside though here. But your money flow is looking like it's continuing on the way out on the hourly, with plenty of selling volume here on the hourly as well. Got your prime oscillator sitting green here, waiting for that MACD to cross to the upside. But really going to depend if we can get back above 240, turn that into some support there. There's plenty of selling volume in this range, starting at about $243. You see all of these wicks indicating all of the sell pressure to the top side of this range. All right, I see. Did you get to Sol? I have not. I will take a look at that. And actually, I won't have time to take a look at that. We had Tesla and Nvidia requested as well. So let me get over to Nvidia, and then I'll have to wind on down the show. Got Adam Paul, been holding since 2021, talking about patience, says Crypto Billy. Yep, I definitely got better patience on some altcoins than I do, sir. I'm just a Bitcoin maxi, honestly. I don't hold anything for the long term unless it's Bitcoin. I was holding Atom at the beginning of the cycle, and then I sold off at our peaks. And then I was holding a little bit of DOT, and sold off some DOT as well. If you bought Sol, I bought a bit of Sol back last cycle, and then sold off, and I have not been holding any Sol since. I did dabble my toes in on for some of their staking. So I think I was getting 9% for my staking on Solana. So I did stake it for a little while, and then I just got out. I don't have a lot of conviction in Solana. It is I kind of have the same feelings on Solana as I do with Ethereum. They've got that Solana foundation, and it less than 100% ethical in my eyes. So I'm not gonna put my money there. I did stake it though, cause get a little bit of Solana, and then once we got to the peaks, I think it was that 200 area, I just got out, and then I never looked back. I've not been buying any Solana. I have only been buying Bitcoin. That just is what it is for me. It's safe to me, and I've been looking at some TradFi options, and those energy sector and healthcare sector. I know I can pull those back up for you later in the week, and we can dive into some of my lists. We do see Nvidia making a little bit of a downside action here. We did close out the CME gap here that it opened as well. Let me get that drawn out here. Sitting in the same area, you can kind of see we got that wick action to the top side of the CME gap before we really dropped back to the downside of it. You got your pre-market opening up in the CME gap though. So looking to try to maintain the midline of that. You do see the potential for some continued downside as the 4-hour is printing a lower low on our histogram here. You've got your MACD line sitting to the bottom of our indicator line. We are getting a little bit of some curvature though, but all of this sell volume and money flow is looking to increase here. You did see that True 7 get a little bit of some clipping, so seeing a little bit of some upside on the short term would definitely be a look to watch for, but you've got a lot of selling pressure above us. You do see that starting at about 103.50. So all of this sell wall above us would be a resistance zone to kind of watch for. Would really want to see us turn a 101 into some support. That is the top side of that CME gap. You do have another CME gap right to the top side of us. So we'll kind of have to see how this all plays out for the morning. Let's zoom that on in to the 15-minute and see what the morning is bringing our way here. As you can kind of see, let me get that prime oscillator a little bit lower for you, and there we go on the MACD as well. Looking like a bit of an indecision zone. Got your MACD and indicator line running in tandem here, printing some red candles as well on the histogram. Got your prime oscillator at an indecision point as well, running a little bit sideways as your money flow is running sideways as some selling, and your money volume is looking to potentially switch back to the green here. keep an eye at all of this selling volume to the top side of us. You did see all of that wicking action above $103, where we made these very equal highs at for NVIDIA. Let's get that horizontal ray drawn out so you can see where that selling pressure really starts at. That's at 104.17. Most of my portfolio in dollars is Bitcoin, but I hold the top 15 alts. Last cycle that paid, this cycle it has cost me to date anyways. And there we see, and there we go, Crypto Billy. That's why I sold off most of my alts. I sold most of everything back at that peak that we had seen last cycle, or last year. That's my bad on the verb. Last year, when we got that peak back in the 70s, back here, I sold off all of my alts, and then I didn't buy back in alts. I think I bought it a little more near and a little more injective after I had sold off back when we were in like the 65 range back here. Rode that to the top back when we kind of topped out. They didn't really perform like I was hoping they would, and so I just kind of got out. I was staking my injective, so was kind of hard, was a little bit of a slow up on the sell for that, but I definitely ended up selling out there. It is 6:30 and time to wind that show on down. Let me thank you all for showing up. I appreciate every single one of you participating in the chat and bringing those alt requests and bringing some projects I haven't looked at in quite a while. We do have that morning motivational video here in just a second. Make sure to tune in to the morning market report at 10 a.m. I will see y'all in the chats over at the morning motivational video here in just a second. Make sure to wake up because today's going to be a good day.